Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking all about the brand new Colourpop Jellymuch shadow sticks that came out. There's actually quite a few shades in this range. I picked up 6 to review. I wanted to get a feel for this formula and I picked the shades that were most exciting to me. I'm going to be doing detailed swatches and a look, and I'm also going to be incorporating some other new formulas from Colourpop that I've tried recently. I will have everything linked. If you decide to pick up anything and you use my links, thank you so much. It really does support my channel. These shadow sticks retail for $10. You can get them for $8.50 on TikTok Shop, and they do have some bundles available. These are jelly shadow sticks that feel cooling to the touch. You don't get any fallout with application, and they can be used as highlighting shades on the cheeks or even on the lips. The first shade we have is Aura Points. This is an iridescent shadow and it has a multicolored sparkle throughout. You get blue and silver and purple. I'm super excited about the fact that they included some iridescence in this launch. I love using these as highlighting shades. I also love that some of the shades are more opaque while others are more sheer. I was also excited to see that you have some more neutral tones as well as some more colorful tones. The next shade we have is Hyped, and I would describe Hyped as kind of a purpley taupe in its base. And you have blue and silver and purple sparkles throughout. This is a perfect neutrals with a twist kind of a shade. Something I'm really excited about is the fact that these all seem to be very high impact. And I say this in comparison to a lot of the other formulas that I've tried. Some of the shades in the lineup I think are up there with Danessa Myricks. Not all of them, but definitely some of them. The next shade we have is Big Energy, and I would simply describe this as a neutral gold, and it's packed with gold and silver sparkles throughout. Again, very excited that even the neutral tone shades like these feel special and kind of amped up. It's not often that I get excited about using neutral tones, but this one is super sparkly, definitely an amped up neutral. Next shade we have is Pink Perfection, and I would describe this simply as a baby pink. It's packed with pink and silver sparkles. I would say the sparkle particles in this one are a little bit smaller than some of the other shades that I've swatched, and the texture is a little bit smoother as well. This was one of the shades I was really excited about because honestly, I haven't seen a shade like this from other lines. So I do have to point that out because I can't think of a dupe for this one in terms of shade and formula. The next shade we have is Happy Tears, and again, this is one that I was super excited about. I can't think of another shade that's like this from other lines, like an intense baby blue. It has baby blue and silver sparkles throughout, and it's very foiled even on the first swipe application. I think this is definitely the shade that I was most excited about, but I say this as a known self-professed blue eyeshadow lover. Last but not least, we have the shade Stay Jelly, and this is a rich purple tone shade. It has a little bit of warmth and brightness to it, and again, this is a shade that I was very excited about. It has silver and golden sparkles throughout. This shade definitely, I think, does have some dupes or shades close to it from other lines that carry jelly shadow sticks, mostly because I think purple is viewed as an overall safe shade, whereas I think blue is seen as bolder. I'm still waiting to see some other shades though, like greens and oranges. I'm yet to see brands do very many shades like those. Here's what all the shades I just talked about look like swatched to my arm. As I said, there's actually quite a few more shades, but I picked up enough to really get a sense for the formula. Let's go ahead and get into my look and some wrap-up thoughts. All right, I want to dive into doing a look using these new shadow sticks from Colourpop, as well as a few other recent launches. I'm going to set down some shadows. I'm going to use this palette from Sigma. Of late, this has been one of my favorite neutral palettes. I haven't tried that many shadows from Sigma, but I have to say, I am impressed with the quality. I'm just going to put down some neutral shades and then go in with some of my sparkle. Just using that brown matte as a transition shade. And then taking that same brown matte and sweeping it along the lower lash line. All right, now I'm just going to deepen up the outer corner with this black matte here. I can't tell whether it's a black matte or just a very rich brown. Either way, love the depth of that shade. for a smoky eye. And then I'm just adding a little to the lower lash line as well. All right, now let's get into playing with these shadow sticks. I'm going to start off with the shade Big Energy, which is that sparkly kind of cool tone gold, and just put that on the inner portion of the lid. Do you want to use multiple of these shades because I just think that these are going to play really well together, and I'm only doing one look, so I want to integrate as many as possible. Right, I have to say I'm really impressed by the level of sparkle in these so far. I'm going to go in with the shade Stay Jelly. Something I like about this launch in general is that, you know, a lot of brands have been doing the jelly sticks. I like that Colourpop did these, brought them at an affordable price point, and also did some really fun shades that we haven't really been seeing from a lot of the other brands that have been doing mostly gold tone shades. All right, and the final shade I'm going to use is Aura Points, and I'm going to use that just as a highlighting shade on the brow bone and a little bit on the inner corner. And I think this shade ties in well because it's an iridescent that has both blue and purple sparkle. And I did want to tie it in with that purple that I've already put on the lids. And by the way, I completely forgot to mention that this is the Sigma Vintage Radiance palette. And I know that Sigma has a lot of neutral palettes, but I have to say this is one of my favorite neutral palettes that they've done. So really happy with the quality of this one so far. All right, and Colourpop recently released liquid bronzers. So I want to go ahead and try this out. This is the shade Surf Rider Beach. I think this is the right shade for me. There is like one or two that is deeper than this one. I'm just gonna put a couple of dots. I am really hoping that that's not too much product, but we'll see. And then I'm just gonna take this brush from Fantasy Cosmetica and blend that in. Now I'm really wishing that I went in with a lighter hand. Okay, despite me using too much product, that blended in really beautifully, and I do really love how sun-kissed that made me look. Here's what both sides look blended in. I admit I used too much product, but I really, really think this blended beautifully. I just would have gone in with a little bit of a lighter hand. So I'm really excited to play around with that bronzer a little bit more. Now, the next thing I'm going to use is this kind of shimmery liquid blush, and I'm going to try to learn my lesson. I just started off with a little bit on the top of the cheekbones, and I'm going to use that brush and work that into the skin. These liquid shimmery blushes are really, really pretty, I gotta say. They don't look like overtly sparkly on the skin, and they give you that blush highlight combo. And by the way, this is the shade Sweet Treat. All right, now I'm just finishing off the look with the Cloud Whip in the shade Cloudy Hour. This has what I would describe as a moussey texture. It doesn't feel drying whatsoever on the lips. And just adding a little bit of lip liner. This is the shade Char from Unearthly. And here is the completed look. Now that I've had a chance to go through everything, I want to close up with some wrap-up thoughts, starting off with these jelly shadow sticks from Colourpop. I am honestly really impressed with these. When I first saw these sneak peeked, I'm not sure exactly how excited I was, and I'm not saying because they didn't look good, but more because a lot of brands have done their version of these, and I've just felt a little bit fatigued with seeing every brand do the jelly sticks. But I have to say that, you know, some of the things that really stand out to me from this launch is, one, the price point is really good. And the quality is really good. The sparkle, the intensity that you get, these are super high impact, and also you get some really unique shades. So, you know, I think that this launch really was fantastic. And these are definitely some of the sparkliest shadows that I've tried from Colourpop. You know, I really do like the Super Shock shadows. These are even a step up in terms of the level of intensity in the sparkle. So I really do think that this was a great launch, and I hope to see that these kind of stay a part of the lineup for some time now. I do feel like Colourpop is trying to round up their kind of permanent lineup, and I see these as sticking around. In terms of the other products that I tried, I had previously tried Cloud Whip's lip products, and I have a dedicated video on these. I really do enjoy these, and I'm glad to see that these are going to be what looks to be a permanent part of the lineup. And I have to say I was very blown away with these cheek products. I am not someone who regularly uses bronzer. It's a step that I've been kind of skipping for quite some time, but I'm very excited to use these because of how approachable they are. I want to say you go in with a lighter hand. Like, I went in with way too much product, but even though I used a lot of product, I don't feel like this bronzer ended up looking muddy at all. It blended into the skin very easily. I'm super excited to play around with this more. And then the final product I want to talk about are these liquid blushes from Colourpop. Again, this is a formula that I feel like I've been sleeping on. I've heard a few people talk about how much they love this formula from Colourpop, and I have to say, very impressed with the performance. I love the fact that you get some intensity with the highlight, but you don't have overt sparkle. I feel like that makes these very day-to-day friendly. Again, these are very pigmented, so I would recommend going in with a lighter hand. Now I'd love to know what you think of this launch and some of the products that I've tested out in this video. Let me know in the comments. If you made it to the end of the video, please leave me a rainbow emoji. As always, I really hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.